Welcome to Kids Church. There's a three-letter word that a lot of the time we don't like to talk about. It might not seem like a nice topic or a polite thing to talk about. It might even feel a bit embarrassing to talk about it. Well, that three-letter word is S-I-N, sin. Last week we began to look at the book of 1 John. It's a letter that John, one of Jesus' best friends, wrote to the churches just like ours. And last week he was saying, listen up. Listen to the message about Jesus. We can know God by knowing Jesus. John wants us to make sure we get the message about Jesus, the message about God right, because a lot of people are telling the wrong message. And so today we look at the next bit of John's letter, and he wants us to understand this three-letter word, sin. He wants us to see just how terrible sin is, but also how awesome it is that Jesus can save us from sin. So let's start this morning by singing a song about sin, about just how dangerous it is.
Crocodile fella down by the river, sitting on a great big rock. The crocodile fella could be dinner, 'cause here comes a hungry croc. Sin is like a great big crocodile. Sin is a dangerous trap. Sin can creep up like a crocodile, all of a sudden, snap. Crocodile lady, she's not crazy, sees a log in the creek. A crocodile lady runs away, 'cause that log's got big sharp teeth. Oh, sin is like a great big crocodile. Sin is a dangerous trap. Sin can creep up like a crocodile, all of a sudden, snap. Wins forgiveness, gotta stay close to him. Only he can set us free from mean old crocodile sin. Sin is like a great big crocodile. Sin is a dangerous trap. Sin can creep up like a crocodile, all of a sudden, snap, oh yeah. Sin is like a great big crocodile. Sin is a dangerous trap. Sin can creep up like a crocodile, all of a sudden, all of a sudden, all of a sudden, snap.
Steady girl, steady girl. She's a beauty. I'll take my hat off to this one. Oh, gee. Excuse me. Come on.
Sin is dangerous. It is when we ignore, when we disobey God. And it is something that can very easily creep up on us. Now let's take a look at a story from the Bible about someone who sinned. But they took a while to realize what they'd done and that they needed God to forgive, to save them. David was a mighty king who ruled over God's people. You might remember him as the boy who beat the giant Goliath. Well, he was now king, and David was a man after God's heart. But he still made big mistakes. He still sinned. One time, David did a very bad thing, and it made God very angry. So God sent a messenger to David. This messenger was the prophet Nathan. And Nathan told King David a story. There once lived two men. They both lived in the same town. One man was rich. He had lots and lots of sheep. But the other man, who lived next door, was poor. He only had one little lamb. He loved his lamb. He fed the lamb from his own plate. The lamb even slept in his arms. She was like a daughter to him. But one day, the rich man had a visitor. The rich man looked at all his sheep. No, he would not kill one of his own sheep to feed his visitor. So when his neighbour was not looking, the rich man stole the lamb, and he killed the lamb, and he cooked the lamb to feed his visitor. When King David heard this story, he was very, very angry. David cried, "This rich man, he deserves to die. How could he do that to the poor man in his land? He must pay for what he has done." Then Nathan said to King David, "That man is you. You are the rich man in this story. God made you king. God has given you everything, but you stole another man's wife, and then you had that man killed. You have done a dreadful thing." David realized what a bad thing he'd done. He fell to his knees and he begged God to forgive him. And God did. You see, kids and adults, we're the same. We sin. And then sometimes we try to pretend that it's not really a problem. We try to trick ourselves into thinking that we don't really sin, that we're not really that bad, that we're pretty good. But when we read 1 John, we see that we need to actually admit our sin to God. But we also read that when we do confess our sin to God, He forgives us. He washes us clean of that sin through Jesus. 1 John 1 verse 8 to 9 says this: "If we claim to be without sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sins, He is faithful and just, and will forgive us our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness." So today, in family time, what I would love you to do is this: discuss, learn, pray. So look at these verses from 1 John and discuss them. Discuss what they mean. Discuss what they show you about you and about our great God. Then learn it. So try and memorize these wonderful verses. You might even like to add action. And finally, pray. These verses remind us to confess our sins. So that's what you might need to do. And they give us plenty to give thanks to God for. That He is faithful, that He is just, that He forgives us of our sin.